Have you ever wondered whether it's smarter to buy a house or just rent one forever? Imagine having the keys to your dream home. But then, there's the question, is it worth it? What are the overall costs of buying or renting a home? How do these costs impact one's financial situation? What are the long-term benefits of buying a home versus the flexibility of renting? Today, we are diving into the buy versus rent debate. We'll highlight the cultural push towards ownership, crunch some numbers to check worthiness of your investments, find out some pros and cons of buying and renting house, and finally, we will discuss some key considerations that can help you make a choice. So, whether you're a first-time home buyer or a renter thinking about your next move, today's discussion can help you. Before we go further, like, share, and subscribe to Life Beyond Trends for more insightful discussions. Okay, let's jump right in and resolve the eternal question, buy or rent. In India, owning a home is not just a financial decision, it's a rite of passage. Traditionally, millennials consider owning a house a matter of pride and prosperity. Renting often gets a bad rap for throwing money away. There's always peer pressure and discussions on how much some property has appreciated over time. Despite pressure from family, younger generations value peace of mind and flexibility over the stress of a 20 to 30-year loan. But is there any merit to it? Let's find out. Now there are numerous complex situations can affect our decisions. We will do our best to use a simple experiment. Let's assume Akash wants to settle in Bangalore and is searching for a house. He has 20 lakh in his bank account. An apartment rent would be around 30,000 rupees. He negotiated to pay a 6-month advance of 1.8 lakh to his landlord. Rent would increase by 5% annually. At the same time, he checked with property dealers. He found a ready-to-occupy apartment that cost him around 1 crore. If he decides to buy, he has to pay 20 lakh in his bank account as down payment and rest of the amount in loan of 20 years term. Bank interest rates vary over time. However, for convenience, we will consider 8% as annual interest rates. Now, the EMI comes at around 66,195 rupees. That is around 1.61 crore in 20 years. So, the total cost of the house is around 1.81 crore. Let us assume the house appreciates by around 6% yearly. How we came up with this specific figure? We will discuss this assumption in next section in few minutes. Now, the future value of the house would be around 3.2 crore. So, Akash's actual profit may be around 1.4 crore. If he decides to rent, he can invest the savings in existing cash of 20 lakh excluding deposit amount and the difference between EMI and rent. He can choose various instruments like fixed deposits, mutual funds, shares, debts, and others. Let us now crunch a few numbers and see which decision is profitable in the long run. Consider scenario 1. He decides to invest in relatively safer debt instruments or fixed deposits with an interest rate of 8%. Starting with 20 lakh in cash, after setting aside 1.8 lakh for a rental deposit, the remaining amount is 18.2 lakh. If this remaining amount is invested in a fixed deposit at an 8% return for 20 years, the maturity amount would be 84.8 lakh. In the first year, an investment of 36,915 rupees is saved every month and invested. This reduces to saving of 35,415 rupees next year as the rent increases by 5%. Continuing investing till saving becomes zero, the investment amount will reach 43 lakh. By adding 8% annual interest, the maturity amount will be around 1.41 crore by the 20th year. After the end of 20 years, his total maturity would be worth 2.26 crore. Let's break down the costs involved in this investment. Throughout this period, the total rent paid amounts to 1.18 crore and the total payments towards the investment cost come to 43.72 lakh. After subtracting these costs from Akash's maturity value of 2.26 crore, his actual profit stands at around 63 lakh. This example highlights that buying a house proves to be more beneficial than putting money into a fixed deposit, as the return from buying a home is significantly higher than the profit from investing the same amount in a fixed deposit. Let us consider scenario 2, where Akash invests in mutual funds such as index funds. An equity index fund has given 13% annualized return in last 10 years. Starting with 20 lakh in cash and after deducting 1.8 lakh for rent deposit, you're left with 18.2 lakh. By investing this amount in equity with a 13% return for 20 years, the investment value will be around 2.1 crore. With regard to savings, the investment strategy follows the same as previous scenario. However, this time, the amount saved every month is invested in the equity. This way, with a yearly return rate of 13%, by the 20th year, the total amount invested will grow to 3.07 crore. First, let's add up the investment returns. When you combine an investment value, the total comes to 5.16 crore at the end of 20 years at 13% per annum. During this time, the total rent and investment amounts remain same as earlier, that is 1.18 crore and 43 lakh respectively. After deducting the rent and EMI payments from the total investment value, Akash's actual profit is 3.54 crore. This comparison shows that investing in equity turns out to be more beneficial than buying a house because the profit from investing is significantly higher than the gain from buying a home. So, we have now seen that if Akash prefers to invest in fixed deposits, he should buy a house. On the other hand, if he is willing to invest in equities, he should prefer to stay in rental housing. In other words, Akash's investment appetite should be one of the considerations when buying or renting a home. If we analyze carefully, renting out is the best option if you manage to get a return above 9.77% from your investments in the above scenario. Please remember, the above calculations are absolute hypothetical and has numerous assumptions. Investing in shares is also risky compared to fixed investments. We have skipped few factors such as benefits like HRA or EMI tax breaks that benefits both decisions. I hope this has brought some clarity. If you have some queries while making your own decisions or have other thoughts, please drop your comments below. I would be happy to clarify as best as feasible. Now, let us explore if you decide to invest in a property, but not for own living. Is real estate a good investment? Let's start by verifying a few real estate price statistics in two major cities in India, Bangalore and Mumbai. Let us start with Bangalore. Have a look at the data showing the average rates of three prime localities over 10 years, Whitefield, Sarjapur Road and Yelahanka. As you can see, the actual rates of these properties have jumped between 75 and 108% in absolute terms. However, in the best case scenario, the annualized return on investment is just 8%. Now, if we look at the Mumbai region data over 10 years, the property rate of some of the prominent areas such as Mulund West, Andheri West and Bandra West has merely increased by 1 to 3% at best. Not much official data is available for all the cities, rural areas and all localities. However, it is grossly assumed that the annualized return on investment of properties in India is around 6%. This is close to the return on investment on safe debt instruments such as fixed deposits at best. On the other hand, the equity investments provided much higher returns in the same period. Both real estate and equity have high risks. Investing in a balanced portfolio with passive index funds can considerably mitigate market risks. Equities also provide liquidity if you choose the right instruments. So, next time you hear some good stories about returns on real estate, think carefully before jumping in. Now, if we talk about other factors, it is fairly between personal freedom and investment potential. It's not just about finances, but what life you envision for yourself. Buying gives you an asset that grows over time. However, renting offers immediate freedom and flexibility. Renting means you can chase opportunities without being tied down. Buying means putting down roots and, often, a sense of community. So what does buying a house means? Let's start with buying a home. Buying means you own it. Sounds simple, right? But ownership comes with its bag of pros and cons. On the pros side, there's the sense of stability, knowing your home is yours and no one can take that away. Then, there's the investment potential. Over time, most properties appreciate. You're living in an investment. And let's not forget personalization. Want to paint your bedroom neon green? Go ahead, it's your house. However, ownership isn't all rainbows and butterflies. The cons include hefty upfront costs. Think down payment, closing costs, and those unexpected repairs. There's also the lack of flexibility. If you have decided you don't like your neighborhood, moving to another place is a major ordeal. Now, let's switch to renting. Renting is like being in a relationship without a long-term commitment. First up, flexibility. Hate where you live? The lease is up, and you're free to go. Then, there's the minimal responsibility. If you have leaky water taps, just call the landlord. But renting isn't perfect. Con number 1. No return on your monthly payments. It's not an investment. It's an expense. And you're at the mercy of your landlord's rules. Dream of that neon green bedroom? Might not happen. Let's talk costs now. The glaringly obvious one for renters: monthly rent. But buyers, don't get too comfy. There's the mortgage, property taxes, maintenance, and sometimes homeowners association fees. These aren't just numbers. They could mean the difference between a sustainable lifestyle and financial stress. How about calculating the true cost? For buyers, factor in all the costs beyond the mortgage. And for renters, consider the rent's trajectory over time. Is rent increasing yearly? How does that compare to a long-term lease? Imagine having 50% of your wealth locked in real estate. Sounds unbelievable? That's the reality for many Indian families. So, where does this leave us? Buying and renting each have their unique advantages and drawbacks. It boils down to your personal circumstances, financial situation, and where you see yourself in the future. What's right for someone else might not be right for you. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think buying house is better than renting, or the reverse, and why? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown helpful, give us a like, share this video with friends who are in the same boat, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Remember, whether you buy or rent, make the choice that aligns with your life.